Hello, Mary. We're going to talk about the Word God. Now, we're going to talk about the Word God, not what that word may be articulating. The Word God, of course, is from the West. It is not from the Middle East. The Word God was not used by the ancient enlightened sages of the East or the West. Socrates did not use the word. Buddha did not use the word. Zoroaster or Zarathustra did not use the word, and so on. The word is Anglo-Saxon and started to become popular around the 5th century when England was Christianized. And then the word began to spread everywhere after the King James Version of the Bible came about. The definition of the word is deity. The word means deity. As to the teachings of Yeshua, or Yeshua, which is supposedly where all this originates, the words he actually used, we just don't know. We don't know what words he did use. There's some speculation on some. But different words they were, and no doubt with more specific meanings as to particular concepts and practices Yeshua put forward to his disciples. Practices and prayers and so forth, each would have a little different connotation in its reference to the Divine One. Many scholars today have reason to believe he may have often used the word Elohim. He might also have used the Greek word theos from time to time. But we really don't know for certain. Otherwise, when the Word God appears in the four Gospels, we can extrapolate from his teachings a number of possibilities. In Hebrew, Aramaic, or in Greek, he might have used words such as goodness, permanence, truth, illumination, wisdom, presence, love, or knowledge. So Yeshua may not have been speaking to deity in many places where the word God appears in the New Testament scriptures. Now, the people of India, really all the religions of the world except for Christianity, the original writings are pretty much intact in most religions. So they know what the ancients were saying in the context of that religion. Not so with Christianity. I think the people of India, I believe the people of India are most fortunate in this regard, because these are texts that go back to an oral tradition that may have begun something like 10,000 years ago. Thousands of years would go by before they even put it in writing, so this is very ancient text. Going back to the Vedas and so forth. In a scientific manner, from the genius of nature, really, the rishis composed words such as Atman, Brahman, or the mantra Om, in order to convey specific meanings, but not only to the conceptual mind, but the sound vibrations, the vibrational qualities of those words also affected the body and the mind. Here we're talking about what's called the nadis, or nadis. It's the energy currents pervading and surrounding the body. Many of their words were composed for that, to affect the body and the mind in a particular way. You cannot say this about the Word God. Absolutely. So let's consider God as to how sound affects the body and the mind. The first phonetic of God is a grating sound. That's the G sound. This is initial disruption, irritation at the base beginnings of awareness. And that's how awareness begins, with a disruption of some sort. The O sound invokes wholeness, so this is very good. But then it's cut short and enclosed by the D sound. So there is a kind of enclosure of wholeness to the word from the basis of the initial awareness of some type of thing. Yet words such as Atman, Brahman, and Om, so forth, are not enclosures, yet are open, and you might say they exist in extension. So the Word God might inspire a kind of ecstasy or euphoria anyway. It has a sense of belonging to it. The Word also inspires feelings of irritation and limitation, separateness, containment, and some people in using the Word sometimes feel a kind of imprisonment to it. People have talked about this. They have no problems whatsoever with the teachings of Yeshua, of Jesus. It's the Word God itself. It's confusing to them. This was especially true some years ago, and people seem to have become kind of resigned to it. But the Word does cause confusion in people's minds. And I think it goes back to this fact that those are not the words that Yeshua used. So he was talking about some things that the Word God simply doesn't cover. The Word God does not address the truths and so the consciousness and so forth, the spirit of which Yeshua spoke. And I think that has a lot to do with the basis of confusion. I listened to such people for a while, and after some time, began to experience it myself. So I know what that's like, to go through that period where you have this word that's been handed to you and you've used it all your life, and then all of a sudden you find that's the wrong word. What is the correct word? You know? And it can be disturbing, quite disturbing. One quality to it that I've noticed is that as long as the word is enclosed in some manner and used quietly within, not spoken out, then it may be in a more proper setting. And a lot of people do experience this. The word becomes a kind of a mantra they keep inside, and it's very precious to them. They keep it close to the heart, to enliven the heart, to fill the inner life with its light. And when kept within, God is a constant source of personal and joy-filled inspiration and meaningfulness. Yet it is also unto the word when the moment God is extended outward from the inner recesses of the heart. It is accompanied by feelings of awkwardness and confusion. while that sense of separateness is carried out to all things. This in turn may promote a kind of a smugness, even if subtle, and a kind of cliquish mentality, and perhaps along with it a sense of daring to it, and perhaps also an unconscious need for defense and enforcement. Now, all of this is evidenced in the history of Western religions. Now, it was that way before people started using the word God, but afterward it got really bad. Okay, the Crusades, or not the Crusades, but the Inquisition. It's just one example, a very big example of what Christianity went through after some of its people started using the word God. I can't say that's the reason for the Inquisition, but the effects of that sound on the mind and the body may have contributed to the horrible things that the church did. So let's consider God in this manner. Okay, this is God. He is standing before a crowd of people and divides them into two groups. He secretly goes to one group and tells them they are absolutely correct about everything. And so the people are filled with joy. However, he goes on to say anyone who disagrees with them is wrong. Then he steals over to the second group to tell them the exact same thing. In almost no time, hostilities break out between the two groups, and there's fussing and fighting and all that. And after the dust settles, God then divides the survivors into smaller camps. And so on it goes in all its convolutions. Drawing from their better natures and in the want for peace, people keep trying to unite everyone under God, while God himself works against it. That is, the word God as a mantra works against it. No matter how one might speak of the divine wisdom, the human mind will become attuned to the vibrational qualities of those phonetics and words repeatedly used. If the vibrations of those words are opposite to the concepts, then feeling, thought, and behavior will be moved accordingly, even if unconsciously, causing a schism. So, what's to do? In the context of this talk, look to the words of Yeshua himself. In Matthew it is written, "Blessed are the pure in heart." That's one of the Beatitudes. Coming to purity is illustrated in the first three Gospels in the account of, say, the woman with the alabaster box, the poor widow at the temple, and there are other stories. In John's Gospel, the woman at the well comes to purity in a different manner. The woman at the well could see the Master's words were truthful and used her intellect to turn from hedonism to selfless service, which is service to the Divine One. Again in Matthew, when speaking to his disciples about the relationships they were about to encounter, Yeshua instructed them to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. That is, be still and observant and not attached to anything. And there is the clear intellect. As well, that which is pure in one's heart is in empathy with others. By the pure in heart and by the pure clarity of intellect is a profundity not to be put into words. Then the truth will be brought out and spoken out loud for those who have the ears to hear and the eyes to see.